Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in What's on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of What's on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of What's on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
It's time for What's on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
Just imagine $90 trillion with a T transferring from one generation to the next. What kind of impact could that have on that generation? That's exactly what may happen, though. Industry pros say an American generation, one that's already here, may soon become the wealthiest generation in human history, and it might not be the generation you think. Welcome into this Sunday's What's on Wealth radio show. Delighted to have you with us. This is Ralph Hipp, as Barry will fill us in on the new wealthiest generation and why they may be unfortunately ill-prepared for this influx of wealth. Well, we can't get started till we welcome Barry into the microphone. And Barry, love connecting with you. How are you, bud?
Hey, I'm doing really well today. Thank you, Ralph. I hope you are as well. And it was occurring to me, you and I need to work on this a little bit. We need to work into our routine when we open the show, something about the platinum microphone of the What's on Wealth radio show. It sounded better when Rush Limbaugh used to talk about the golden mic in the EIB studio. The platinum mic in the What's on Wealth studio. I don't know. We need to work on that and make it sound a little better, probably.
Well, and golden up to platinum, you're elevating it, huh, Barry?
Yeah, no, I was definitely elevating it. No question about that. I'm a little tired this morning. You know, I was rocking out with Billy Joel last night in St. Louis. Billy Joel played the ballpark there in St. Louis, and we had a good time going to the show. We went to the show because Kelly, my bride, her birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday, baby.
Yeah.
She'll be 61 years old. And so since she's having a birthday, and since my son-in-law Zach has a birthday in another couple of days, we always celebrate those two events by getting together and doing something. And this year it was, hey, let's go see Billy Joel. So that's what's been going on in my life. You've got big news you wanted to talk about, but I'm going to interrupt you. I've got other news I want to talk about first, Ralph. I want to talk about yellow freight. Yellow freight. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because it affects our listeners, not just, you may say, I don't have anything to do with yellow freight. Yeah, I know. But what yellow freight is doing may affect you. So you need to listen carefully. Our listeners who have any kind of a pension plan. So here's the backstory. Yellow Freight, the trucking company, went bankrupt, and they're currently in bankruptcy. And now they're still in business. The stock is still trading, but they're in bankruptcy. They owed, among other things, they owed about $6.5 billion in pension payouts to their employees. And of course, if you're taking the company through bankruptcy, the first thing you want to do is get out from under any of your obligations, and that's a big obligation. So they went to the bankruptcy judge and they said, Judge, we believe if you would just relieve us from this pension payout, then we would be able to pay all of our other creditors, and the company will come out whole on the other side, and the stockholders will still have a company after they've paid off all the debt. Well, now, who does that leave holding the bag? All the employees who had pensions coming. So the judge made, I think, probably a right decision and said, no, we're not going to do that. He said, as a part of this, you have got to have a plan for how you're going to pay off the employees as well in their pension. And so a couple of things that are interesting about that. First of all, the stock price fell a little bit when that happened, but not as much as you would have expected. The stock was trading about $8 back in May. Today, it's trading at about 72 cents. But what I want you to think about is, what if you were an employee of Yellow Freight? And what if you'd worked there for many years and you were depending on your pension coming from them? And what if you had a 401k plan and you had been putting a little money into the 401k plan and you were encouraged by your employer to put that money into the company stock, so you own Yellow Freight, in your 401k plan. And what happens if there's an employee stock option program where if the company performs and does well, they give you an opportunity to buy into the stock of the company, and you've been building stock all this time. So you could have Yellow Freight controlling your pension, you could have Yellow Freight controlling your 401k, and you could have Yellow Freight controlling your stock. And you, if you were in that position and were about to retire, Ralph, that'd be a bad place to be.
Real interesting, Barry. And you've already got all the details about that. You're really on top of this story. That's amazing.
Well, that's because when I saw the article come out in the news, I'm like, dude, that's the kind of thing that affects people and could affect my clients. Now, I don't have any clients who work for Yellow Freight that I know of. But, we do have people who work for publicly traded companies in our client base here in the Missouri Ozarks. A lot of people work for O'Reilly Automotive. And they come in, they're very wealthy. O'Reilly's done very well. It's a wonderful company to work for, a wonderful company to own. I have no reason to believe that it won't always do well. And yet when they come in, them or people like Jack Henry, people who've worked for them for many years, another publicly traded company here in the Ozarks, when they come in with a lot of themselves invested in that company, it's in their 401k, it's in their stock option program, and their job is tied up there as well, we say to them, it's important that you diversify. And so we've got clients who are selling those two particular stocks, not because we think the stock is bad or the stock's going to go down. Don't think that at all. I love owning both of those stocks, but because we just don't want people in retirement to be dependent on one company. You have to diversify, even if it means selling a company that has done outstandingly well in the past, as those two that I mentioned have done. So that's just an important thing to consider. And another thing to consider that comes out of this story is simply this. What if you retired from Yellow Freight and you were already drawing your pension? Well, now your pension check is going to get cut. You're in trouble. So here's a lesson. If you've got a pension and they offer you a cash buyout, you need to strongly consider taking the cash, taking the lump sum. You can transfer it into your IRA, so it's not taxable when you do that. And then you alone will have control of the money. You can invest it in what you want to, even something FDIC insured, if that's what you wanted to do. We can build your own pension plan, and it leaves you in control and not the union bosses or the company honchos in control. And I think that's the best place to be and the best way to approach that, Ralph. So that's important thought number one. Now, I've got important thought number two, but are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it. And thank you, all the people who are working for Yellow Freight. I know they thank you for all that that you just went into on their behalf and some real life planning possibilities for the people at Yellow Freight. What's number two?
They need to be careful. I got an email from my friend down in Highlandville, Bill Kentling.
Yeah.
I live in Christian County. You may know the Kentling family off down there. Now, the truth is Bill's not in Highlandville anymore. He lives over in Kansas. But he sent me a USA Today article dated September 2nd, and it said, "What do Americans fear more than death? Retirement."
Ouch. Wow.
61% of Americans fear retirement more than death. Interesting fact, by the way. 61% of Americans are also worried that they won't have enough money for retirement. Maybe those are the ones who fear retirement more than death. 64%, just interestingly, fear retirement more than divorce. About 20% of Americans over the age of 50 don't have any retirement savings. And only half of Americans have even stopped to figure out how much money they may need in retirement. So I got a suggestion for that. And my suggestion is you need to know what your sitting on the porch number is. And that's what we specialize at the Wealth Care Corporation, is building retirement income plans. And it starts by you saying, here's how much money I'm going to need in retirement. So I'll give you one more idea, and then we're going to let Ralph get to his news stories. The one more idea that I want to give you is this. You need to get a copy of my book. It's called What's on Wealth. It's about 140 pages. And if you'll turn to chapter 4, page 41, well, we talk all about designing retirement income plans in there. Mm-hmm. And so that will be helpful to that half of Americans. So we need to print more books if half of Americans are going to get it. That'll be helpful to the half who have not even started to calculate how much they're going to need in retirement. Way to get the book is simply text the word book, B-O-O-K, to a number that Ralph is going to give you here in just a moment. And if you'll text that word to us, we'll send an autographed copy of the book out to you in the mail this week.
You will love it. Say, I got a book from Barry Watson. He signed it, and it's absolutely complimentary. But text that word book to 417-200-3500. You know the number if you're a regular fan of our show, Watts on Wealth, the radio show, 417-200-3500. Also text the word visit to meet Barry personally. Well, the big question for the old news guy here, Barry, of course, a few days ago, we've talked about it. The Fed did cut the interest rates, and they did do 0.5 point. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. I couldn't let the show go by without checking with you. Does a 0.5 point drop in the main interest rate, our borrowing rate, really play into the big picture of retirement financial planning at all? And in what ways
into
does
the
it do
big picture
that?
a bunch, yeah. Because
in what ways?
it changes the interest you pay. If you're in an interest-paying position, hopefully you're not in retirement, but many people are. It changes the outlook of the country in terms of optimism because I think people are strangled on their mortgage payments. And there are other debts that have interest attached to them. And this is a light at the end of the tunnel because it's the first indicator that things are going to ease up and it's going to continue to ease up. It also could change performance on the markets. And generally, that's not always positive when you see interest rate reductions like this. Sometimes that can cause or be a sign that we're about to stumble into a negative market. I don't necessarily think that's the case. But yeah, it's a big deal, a big piece of news. It was very significant when that came out recently.
Very good. Well, folks, as we say in the news business, when I was back at KSPR long ago doing the news, that's the news for now. We've caught up on the headlines. Once again, to call Barry, set up that visit. You can text the word visit today, this beautiful Sunday, or call first thing in the morning, 417-200-3500. And also even today or whenever, Barry, so they can just text that word book to that number. They'll get the book.
Yep. If you'll just text us the word book, we'll get it mailed out to you on Monday morning.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I mentioned at the start, we'll get into our main topic of the day. What is this richest generation in the history of the world? I'd love to find out what that is, so we'll get Barry's thoughts on that. This is Ralph Hipp, along with J. Barry Watts, the main retirement wealth designer for Springfield's Wealth Care Corporation at Highway 65 and Battlefield Road. You are listening to the Watts on Wealth radio show this weekend, and we'll return and talk more with Barry right after this.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his Retirement Toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his Retirement Income Planning Booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
Barry Watts and the team at Wealth Care Corporation understand no matter how the 2024 presidential election shakes out, it's going to have a huge impact on your retirement. Now, more than ever, it's important that you have a clear understanding of what's at stake with your finances because, as we've already seen, anything could happen. Major election surprises, like the ones we've been seeing, can potentially tip the balance on our economy. We also know our current tax rates are going to expire at the end of next year, and then they'll go back up. Do you think your finances are ready for all of this? Barry's Election Stress Test can help you find out. Schedule yours today with the Wealth Care Corporation team by calling or texting ELECTION to 417-200-3500. That's ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Call or text ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services offered through duly registered individuals through Wealth Care Asset Management, LLC. An investment advisor in the states of Missouri and California. Investing involves risk.
Are you worried about where your money will go in retirement? No need to worry. Barry Watts is here to help you plan for your retirement future. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to set up a meeting with Barry Watts to see what he can do for you. Again, that's text VISIT to 417-200-3500 today.
We're talking with Barry about the new richest generation in the history of the world on the Watts on Wealth radio show. This all sounds incredible, maybe a little daunting. Barry, what do you know about this story? What can you tell us about it? The richest generation in the world.
Well, the richest generation in the world is about to be on us. And the reason that they're the richest generation in the world is because all the money is going to kind of pile up on them. We're not talking about baby boomers. That's my generation and yours, Ralph. We're not even talking about Gen X. We're talking about the millennial generation. That's those people born between 81 and 96. So my oldest daughter technically falls into that category. And she and Sydney, Madison and Sydney, are going to have wealth. And they're going to have wealth because they accumulate their own, but they're going to have wealth because, my mom and dad have got a little wealth, for example, and I'm eventually going to inherit some of that wealth. And then Kelly and I have accumulated some wealth, and that wealth is going to be compounded by what we inherit from mom and dad. And then when we go, that's going to be passed on down to our girls. So what's going to happen is we've got about 3 generations of wealth, maybe even 4 if we go back to the greatest generation, that is kind of going to all begin stacking together in pancake-like fashion. And we're going to find that those young kids are going to have a lot more money than they knew what to do with. And that's why helping them plan could be very important and is something that those of us who are a little older ought to be focusing on right now.
So why would the millennials become this rich, Barry? What are some more of the causes of that?
Well, I think it's just that money stacks up over time. And, Ralph, you and I have lived in the greatest economic expansion in the history of the country. And the poor folks here in the Ozarks have even gotten wealthy and are certainly at least doing a lot better. And so when the silent generation dies off, and that's almost completed, the baby boomers are starting to die now. They're leaving behind these estates, and the millennials will be the biggest beneficiaries of those estates as it all stacks up. And so the big message is if you've got millennial children or beneficiaries somewhere in your downstream, you need to get them involved in conversation about financial things right now. You need to get them coaching. You need to get them a copy of the book, What's on Wealth? Ralph will tell you how to get that in just a moment. You need to get the book, and you need to be sure they have it in their hands. And every chance you get, you need to engage them in conversation about how they manage their money and the fact that they're going to receive money from you, and they need to know how to manage that as well. We have a lot of moms and dads who are bringing their kids and even in some cases their grandkids to talk to us at the Wealth Care Corporation.
Hey, friends in the Ozarks, no matter what generation you're in, I would get with J. Barry Watts and do it as soon as you can. Give Barry a call. It is 417 around the Ozarks, 417-200-3500. And when you text the word book, you'll get that copy of the What's on Wealth book. Said about 140 pages, huh, Barry?
Yep, roughly 140 pages.
Yeah.
It's a pretty easy read. Had a client come in this week who said, hey, I was sitting on the beach down in Florida. I read your book. It's pretty good.
Great.
Book, he said. I'm like, thank you. We're glad to hear that. Glad you like that book.
Yeah. Well, listen to the way Barry talks and then putting that in writing, and whatever Barry says, the wit and wisdom and the words of wisdom there from Barry, have it in printed form or on Kindle. You're going to love going through that. It's great to watch us on our TV shows. We're on 3 different channels now around Springfield. The What's on Wealth TV show, our radio show right here on Talk 104, and the book and the YouTube videos, all that together, you'll really have a great, clear picture of what you would want your retirement to look like that retirement, the guy sitting on the beach in Florida reading Barry's book. That's awesome. Yeah. So once again, that
fun
number.
Story. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, that is great. Talk about summertime reading as we're also getting into the fall here. But once again, that number to text the word book or call for Barry, 417, just call Barry, 417-200-3500. Barry and I on the radio show this Sunday, we're talking about this prediction. Millennials will be the wealthiest generation we've ever had on the globe. About the millennials, what are their financial habits that might help make this happen, Barry?
Well, I think they're more focused on the near-term goals than they have been on long-term goals. They have been raised in a culture that totally doesn't know how to deny themselves in pursuit of the bigger thing tomorrow, but immediate gratification is an important part of that. And, they're all young at this point, so they're still at that time in life where they're more living paycheck to paycheck. Some of them are actually providing support to aging parents, hint to Madison and Sydney. Mom and I need you to be sure and prop us up when the time comes. And certainly that we hear a lot about that, Ralph, the whole sandwich thing, not just with that generation, but with others, because so many people my age have got elderly parents. In fact, I had lunch just yesterday with a friend of mine, and the first thing he said is the worst year of my life so far. And it was because of the load of caring for his own parents that he was under. And so, one of the things to realize if you're a millennial or you love millennials and you're going to be giving money to them is they just need all the help you can give them to start planning.
Madison and Sydney, I'll drop another hint to you. You know this already. Okay. Mom and dad are both 61 now. Hint, hint, hint on that. Okay. And you're
Mama's got until tomorrow, but we had Matt and Sydney joined us last night at the Billy Joel concert, by the way.
Oh, man.
That was fun to be with them there in Busch Stadium.
Fantastic. I bet that's a great venue for a concert. Was it fantastic? The acoustics were great.
Good to be with your kids and, and 40,000 of your closest friends. I wanted to see Billy Joel in New York, playing Madison Square Garden.
Sure.
He's had a residency in Madison Square Garden. He's done over 100 shows there. And that's what I actually planned to do. But then I saw this show coming up in St. Louis, and the kids are in St. Louis and in Indianapolis. It's just too easy. So I said, let's go do it there.
Yeah. And has Billy called you yet about, planning his retirement future with you, Barry? Has he gotten in touch?
I haven't heard a word from Billy. That's just the way it goes.
It's all those many people.
Can't help all of them. But if there's a Billy Joel down in Branson, Missouri, well, we're ready to help you. Call us at the Wealth Care Corporation.
Yeah. And hey, call that number no matter where you are or listening anywhere in the country, really, on the website or on the podcast, 417-200-3500. Barry, what's your advice, not so much for Billy Joel and the big Branson crowd there? What's your advice to these millennials hearing our show who might be planning to inherit a lot of money, inherit a huge estate?
Well, I'm going to take you to Thanksgiving morning, Ralph, and I want to suggest to you, if you're going to cook a turkey for Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving morning is the wrong time to learn how to cook the turkey. You need to learn how to cook the turkey before you get to Turkey Day. And it's the same thing with having wealth. You don't wait until you have wealth to learn how to preserve wealth. And so most millennials are so young, they haven't given a thought to retirement planning at this point. Everybody says, you ought to talk to the young people, get them to do this. They're busy. They're being soccer moms. They're running the kids to school back and forth. They're just trying to pay their bills and get started. They can't think about those things. Most people don't start thinking about retirement at any serious level till they're in their 50s. But the millennials are going to inherit so much money that they're going to have to get with it earlier in life in order to properly manage that. So it's a great advantage. They're getting this money. They just need to lace up their shoes a little earlier to start learning how to handle money. So if you're a millennial or you love a millennial, encourage them to get pointed in that direction.
Barry and I are kind of talking about paying it forward in a different way, a huge passing along of generational wealth to these millennials who will be the wealthiest generation in the history of the planet. So, Barry, any other advice for the family members? They're listening in, the moms or dads or grandparents listening in. We're about to pass this to you. How do they connect with the millennials to make all this work and make it work right?
Well, I think you demonstrate to them, first of all, that in your own personal situation that you have gotten it right, that you have a comprehensive and holistic retirement plan that deals with your retirement income to age 100. And maybe you even show them, here's what my retirement income is going to be every year from 65 to 100, because I know you've got that in your files, don't you? You do have that, don't you?
You do have it.
Well, if you don't, why don't you? Isn't that something that your retirement planner should be providing for you? You do have a retirement planner, don't you? Oh, no, you've got an investment guy. Oh, that's different. Investment guys are different than retirement planners.
Not the same.
So here's the point. Everybody needs to have a comprehensive retirement plan that deals with all the issues of retirement, including income and taxes and protecting your principal and dealing with long-term care and Medicare and estate planning and all those sorts of things. And so if you've got that together and you can show it to your kids, it's a good reason for them to get it together. And you can encourage them to do that with a clean conscience because you've already got yourself together. And the best way to do that is to call Wealth Care at the number Ralph gives you and tell them you want to set up an appointment to visit with me and we'll make it happen.
That would be wonderful, and you'll be glad when you do that. You'll feel a lot more comfortable about it. Whether you're wealthy or not so wealthy, you're sitting on the porch money or the money's all in the bank ready to be passed along. Barry's number to help manage that is 417-200-3500, 417-200-3500. Barry can get with you and get in front of the key issues like looking at some of the big risks you might have to retirement, taxes, tax increases, all this market volatility, inflation, strategies helping you reduce your taxes in the future. You don't have to pay all that in tax and keep your retirement savings that you deserve to keep. And maintaining your current standard of living, what you'd like to have in retirement, even as their costs continue to rise. And then toward the end, the legacy and inheritance and estate goals for you and your loved ones and ways that the goals fit into your overall retirement strategy. So, of course, you want all these different accounts and investments and policies you own to work seamlessly together. And, Barry, that doesn't just happen by chance. It doesn't happen by accident, does it?
Well, sometimes when we're being intentional, it doesn't even happen very well. I mean, you have to really work to coordinate those things. And there are just so many things to think about. And this affects that, and that affects this. And, you pull a little string over here on the right side, and something over on the left side falls off and comes apart because you pulled a string on the right side. So you've got to be able to look at this globally. And I'm just going to tell you, Ralph, nobody that I ever deal with is able to look at it globally unless I'm sitting there prodding them and encouraging them to back up another several feet, think about it from a different perspective, consider how this impacts that and that impacts this. If you don't spend your life in that, and I do, of course, but if you don't spend your life in it, you just don't know how to do it. I bet your financial advisor doesn't even know how to do it, because I know a lot of those guys, and I know really what they're doing is just selling mutual funds or annuities and just wanting to draw fees off of doing that. And they're not really doing good, serious retirement planning. Retirement planning is a separate discipline, totally different from investment management. And if you're not getting retirement planning as a part of your investment management, could be that you're at the wrong place. And you need to talk to your friends over at WealthCare, because we're here to help you.
Repeating that number, 417-200-3500. Barry, as you're describing keeping it all together, I had a vision of the Ed Sullivan Show, if you remember way back then, and on Channel 10. And they had the plate spinning guy, and he'd start to spin one plate, and then he'd get the second one going, and third and fourth. He's got 5 plates spinning. Then he's got to go back to the first one and spin that some more and make sure that they're all spinning at the same place at the same time so one of them doesn't crash to the floor and break. So retirement planning can be kind of like that. Do you remember that guy who was doing that on the Ed Sullivan Show?
I do remember that guy, and there are at least 5 plates spinning in retirement, if not 6 or 8. And then you add your grandkids onto that, and you add your health onto that. And if you're retired and your parents are still living, you're in the sandwich generation, add that to that. Oh, my goodness, a lot of plates. Let somebody help you not drop any plates. That's what we do at the WealthCare Corporation.
Barry will keep it spinning for you, folks. Hey, he mentioned he had seen Billy Joel live on stage, and the stages are the next thing we'll talk about. The 3 stages of retirement. Right after this break and a bit of news, Barry and I are back to talk about these stages of retirement as Watts on Wealth, the radio show, continues in just a few minutes. I'll go away.
Taxes. Can't live with them, can't live without them. But if you're looking for someone to help you pay as little taxes in retirement as possible, just give Barry Watts a call at the WealthCare Corporation at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500 to see what Barry Watts can do for you.
Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare Corporation understand no matter how the 2024 presidential election shakes out, it's going to have a huge impact on your retirement. Now, more than ever, it's important that you have a clear understanding of what's at stake with your finances, because as we've already seen, anything could happen. Major election surprises, like the ones we've been seeing, can potentially tip the balance on our economy. We also know our current tax rates are going to expire at the end of next year, and then they'll go back up. Do you think your finances are ready for all of this? Barry's election stress test can help you find out. Schedule yours today with the WealthCare Corporation team by calling or texting ELECTION to 417-200-3500. That's ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Call or text ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services offered through duly registered individuals through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC. An investment advisor in the states of Missouri and California. Investing involves risk.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his Retirement Toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his Retirement Income Planning Booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
This is Ralph Hipp with Barry Watts. Welcome back in. You are listening to the second half of our Watts on Wealth radio show for this Sunday. We used to think of retirement as the final stage of life. It's not really the finish line anymore. Barry and I have mentioned these stages of retirement on the show before, and that our retirement could last 20 to 30 years. It's really when we get to retirement, the beginning of the next chapter of our lives. Retirement today can last so much longer, and we believe it actually goes in stages. So let's go into our next topic, the 3 stages of retirement. What are these stages, Barry? How do you explain them to clients?
Well, Ralph, let's just make it easy. Let's assume you're going to be retired 30 years, and let's divide your 30 years into 3 different 10-year periods. And the first period is the one that you are in presently. Those are the go-go years. And you're about to go on a trip to, is it Scotland, where you're going to be going here in just a few weeks?
Actually, Scotland was last year. It was lovely, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and we're going to Australia. We're taking a group of Kansans to Australia during October. About 30 people are going with Sheila and me, and we're going to go halfway across the world, so we're going to go over there.
Well, yeah, so that's what go means. I mean, you're going and you're enjoying and you're doing a lot. And then there comes a point where your goer just doesn't have quite as much get up in it as it once did, you know. You get up and goes, got up and gone, and know what they say. And that's when you enter the second period, which we call the slow go years. You're still going, you just can't go quite as fast, can't go quite as far, can't do quite as much. And that's a long, long period that's still very vital for people before they enter the last 10 years, which we call the no-go years, or maybe it's just the don't want to go anywhere years. I mentioned my friend I had lunch with yesterday who was having such a struggle with his mom and dad. They are now in their mid-80s. Mother has Alzheimer's, and his dad has a massive back pain issue that he just can't do anything, can't even get him out of the house. They can't go to church anymore. The only food they have is the food that is carried into them, and that becomes quite a burden in those no-go years for your family to take care of you. So you need to have done long-term care planning, of course, to take care of that. But those are the 3 years. We help people with all 3 of those periods, I should say, not years. We help people with all 3 of those types of segments of retirement. At the Wealth Care Corporation, you need to have a plan to deal with each of them.
My family in Nixa, they're not in Nixa anymore, Barry. When we would go down to Nixa and visit with them, and one of the phrases they'd say is, my get up and go has got up and left. So you want to do this before that happens. Yeah. How important is it to know you're going to spend your go years before you retire? And can we kind of generally set a time frame of how long our go years may last by the way we're feeling?
Well, Ralph, I always like to just make it simple and quote my friend Bruce Miracle from down at Republic Battlefield, that neck of the woods. He always tells people you aren't ready to retire until you know exactly what you're going to do the following Monday morning and every day from 8 to 5 in retirement. And so I think you have to have laid a plan. And this idea that I'm just going to retire and go sit on the couch, yeah, that's not going to go well for you. So I would encourage you to get a plan, to think about it. And if you can't come up with anything, maybe you're not ready to retire.
Well, it's a huge transition, Barry, if we think about even Friday to Monday, or think about longer than that, to go from working every day, you've got the paycheck from the boss every other Friday, to now doing whatever you want and keeping those checks coming in some fashion. How do you help people around the Ozarks adjust to this new life of retirement?
Well, I can't make the adjustment for them. We deal with the financial end of it, obviously, making sure that the income that they need is there and that they know what they can spend in retirement. But I would suggest that a good way to prepare yourself is to practice being retired. How do you practice being retired? Well, one way might be to start living on your retirement income. Figure out what your sitting on the porch number is. And if it's going to be $6,000 a month, then start limiting yourself to spending that $6,000 a month. There's the money that we've got coming in. And so you begin learning how to live on that money as opposed to the check that has been coming in, however much that happens to have been. Another idea is maybe to practice being retired by taking a long period off, a long vacation, and pretending you're retired. And just trying to figure out how good are you at being retired. I got to tell you, I'm not very good at it. If I'm off work for a week or 10 days, I begin to get antsy and to feel like I need to get back into my routine of going to work. I cannot imagine just being done and never going back to the office. So right now, I wouldn't be very good at being retired. We'll see over the next 10 years whether I develop skill at that. So I think those are some tips and ideas about how you start preparing for that. But you need to get your mind on it, because if you just blunder off into retirement, the odds of you having success at it aren't very great.
What's the big issue we have in the slow go years, Barry? What can we expect on that, and how do we plan for that?
Well, I think health is becoming an increasing issue in the slow go years. You're transitioning. I think the transition is hard. because you're transitioning from go, 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 go to no, 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 no. And so it's in those slow years that you're having to adjust your brain to the fact that you can't get out and go like you used to. And, my parents discovered recently we had a trip to Europe planned with them, and at the last minute they were not able to go and are not going to be able to go again because it's just too much for them at this age and stage of life. And so you need to be thinking about what going you need to get done now so that when your slow going is causing you to really pare back, you make sure you get everything done, your bucket list completed, so that when your no-go hits, you've seen all the things around the world that you want to. And, kind of fortunately, I already have in my case, but there's always something more to see. And I like it when people introduce new ideas to me. And this week, here's something I found this week. I found a news article, Ralph, on a train trip that starts in Paris and goes to Istanbul. Now,
wow.
That sounds interesting. That's a long trip, by the way. So I sent it to my cousin that we travel with. I'll be going out and seeing them in 2 weeks for their daughter's wedding in North Carolina.
In Istanbul? No, in North Carolina.
Yeah, we're going into North Carolina, but we traveled with them. They were in Europe with us earlier this year. And I sent it to her and I said, hey, here's our train trip. And so she immediately jumped on it. And guess what? You can take the Paris to Istanbul train for only $17,000 per person. Woo!
What a bargain, right? Oh,
well,
my.
I can tell you what I said to her is I said, maybe we ought to look into that train trip up in Canada.
That is nice.
We ought to look into the train trip down at Branson. They'll take you down to Arkansas, turn you around, bring you back in an hour. So obviously we're not going to spend $17,000 on a train trip in Europe, but there are people who do, and more power to them. I'm for you. It just wouldn't be a fit for me because of the outrageous cost. So you have to think about what you want to get done in your go-go years and in the early part of your slow-go years, because in your no-go years, you won't be getting anything done.
Fire in the hole at Silver Dollar City is about my speed, and it's a lot less expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a lot of herky-jerky to it, though.
Oh.
You just probably ought to ride the train at Silver Dollar City, but they had a train wreck at Silver Dollar City.
Oh, have they got it fixed?
Well, yeah, they're back to running the train.
Yeah.
Last year, they had a train wreck. They actually had 2 train wrecks really fairly close together where the train came derailed. I don't know how that happened. They've been running that train for 1,000,000 years, and then suddenly twice in a row it comes off the tracks. I'm guessing that sounds like something's worn out a little bit. But
maybe so, yeah.
I wouldn't hesitate to ride the train at Silver Dollar City. So go get on it and have a good time.
Well, all of us really, when we're in retirement, we might think about our back and our shoulder. Oh, it's aching, not feeling good. But let's get into long-term care also, Barry. What are the statistics on long-term care and how much that would cost, especially if our retirement's 20 to 30 years? What's the price tag on that?
Ralph, probably this morning, 3 out of every 4 people who are listening to our show are going to deal with long-term care at some level. And it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 per month in today's dollars. Lord only knows what it'll cost in 15 years when you really need long-term care. The government says that you can get long-term care in Southwest Missouri for $7,000 a month. I don't really think that's true. I mean, I know technically we could find that, but I think the places that you're going to want to stay are going to cost more. My grandmother's been gone now for 6 years since she died. And we were spending $10,000 a month on her over at Elfindale in West Springfield. In fact, she was right down the hall from John Q. Hammond's. So that was where money in Springfield was going.
Right. I believe you had mentioned that she had been there with him. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's costing $10,000 a month.
Wow.
And so you've just got to prepare. Fidelity says that you're going to spend $300,000 a year. The average couple are going to spend $300,000. No, I'm sorry, not a year. I misspoke. The average couple will spend $300,000 in their retirement years on health care alone. So do you have $300,000 to spend on health care? No, you don't. Well, then maybe you're not ready to retire. Or maybe you have it and don't know you have it. You just need a good retirement plan mapped out for you that shows you how to set that money aside and how to have some money allocated to that so that when the time comes, you can meet that need and still have the retirement income that you want. That's the kind of problem we work out for people who come lay it all down in front of us at the Wealth Care Corporation.
It is Barry Watts you're listening to. I'm his host, Ralph Hipp, and his phone number is 417-200-3500, 200-3500, to talk to Barry yourself at Springfield's Wealth Care Corporation. Retirement might be the finish line for one phase of life, but the starting line for another, and you'll want to make sure you leave enough in the tank to make it all the way to the end. Don't you? Stay with us as we're getting to the end of our show. Barry and I will return right after these messages.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his retirement toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his retirement income planning booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
Barry Watts and the team at Wealthcare Corporation understand no matter how the 2024 presidential election shakes out, it's going to have a huge impact on your retirement. Now, more than ever, it's important that you have a clear understanding of what's at stake with your finances, because as we've already seen, anything could happen. Major election surprises, like the ones we've been seeing, can potentially tip the balance on our economy. We also know our current tax rates are going to expire at the end of next year, and then they'll go back up. Do you think your finances are ready for all of this? Barry's election stress test can help you find out. Schedule yours today with the Wealth Care Corporation team by calling or texting ELECTION to 417-200-3500. That's ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Call or text ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services offered through duly registered individuals through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC. An investment advisor in the states of Missouri and California. Investing involves risk.
Are you worried about where your money will go in retirement? No need to worry. Barry Watts is here to help you plan for your retirement future. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to set up a meeting with Barry Watts to see what he can do for you. Again, that's text VISIT to 417-200-3500 today.
Welcome back in, friends, with Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. This is Ralph Hipp, and we're glad you're joining us. I was thrilled, Barry mentioned on our last show, Barry and I are on TV on 3 Springfield channels. A lot of opportunities for us to catch Barry on television. He'll answer some of your questions, go over some of the main points. KY3 and Color 10 and Channel 49, I believe, is the Fox channel. KRBK is 49, right on there. And watch us and watch those YouTube videos from Barry as well. On to the radio show as we get to the end of the radio broadcast and we get to the end of life. Hopefully it's a long way away. We've got to get to this third stage of retirement, Barry, the no-go years. So we can imagine, and in our own lifetimes, what that would be like. What is typically happening in the no-go years at this point?
Not much.
Not much.
That's why they call it no-go. Probably more care getting than care giving, most usually. Logically, you'll be in a smaller home, most likely. You'll have to have moved to one level. Kelly and I dealt with that when we built our house 20 years ago. We moved in 20 years ago in October, so it's been almost 20 years. We actually put an elevator in because we anticipated living there the rest of our lives, and we said that we wanted them to carry us out feet first, and so we put the elevator in. And now at 60, Kelly's back hurts some, and she's very grateful for that elevator. She uses it to go back and forth upstairs and downstairs with the laundry and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Barry, let me jump in. And also, have you seen, like it's maybe on The Price is Right, they sit in the chair goes up the stairs.
That's the less expensive version of the same concept. It gets you where you need to be.
But you've got the elevator for you and Kelly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we happen to have an elevator. And
that's cool.
When my girls were little, when they were growing up, they used to like to bring their friends home from school. And the big thing to do in Rogersville was to ride our elevator. So, we grew up in a pretty exciting place. I'm going to guess when you're in the no-go years, you may not be driving any longer. So somebody's going to have to take you where you need to go. And that means that you have to think about where you're going to live and how you're going to get where you need to go to make transportation convenient. And so that's kind of what the no-go years begin to look like. And it's going to take money to make all that happen because you got to pay the people who are hauling you here and there. And that's why we want to be sure that we have money left at the end of life. So we had money all along to pay for those kinds of services.
And also, it's not just you and your spouse that are affected in these no-go years, but what kind of family talk should we be having about things like the long-term care, the price tag, and end-of-life decisions, and the big one, estate and legacy planning, Barry?
Well, Ralph, I think you just need to tell your kids what you want this to look like. And people are hesitant to talk about it. I think the reason they're hesitant to talk about it is that there's a little bit of we just don't talk about our business with other people. Get over that. Your kids are your business. If your kids are going to take care of you, if your kids are going to wind up writing your last checks out of your checking account to pay for your health care, and if your kids are receiving whatever's left, get over it. Talk to the kids. Tell them what you want this segment of your life to look like. Write down your funeral plans. I have a file in my credenza right behind my desk. I can't remember what the label is. It may be funeral plans - mom and dad. But they wrote it all down. It's got the music they want played. We've actually got recordings of the music right there in the file. They've told me what they want to happen. What do you want to happen at your funeral? What do you want them to do with your body? Do you want to be buried or do you want to be cremated? And have you told anybody that? Do they know what is expected? Open your books up and show your kids the money. I mean, maybe you've got a kid you can't show the money. But if you have the right kind of kids and you raise them properly, I'm going to guess that you can show them the money. Show them your accounts. I just this week had a phone call from a client who lives in San Francisco. And his son, who is a retired physician, living in kind of over towards Sacramento, had introduced he's our client. He introduced us to his dad. And in the conversation, the dad said, look, I've got all this money in my IRA account. And he said, I don't need any of it. When I take out my required minimum distribution, I just give it to my son. And upon my death, this account is going to go to my son. It's his account. Manage it like you were managing it for my 50-year-old son, not for me, the 90-year-old dad. So he showed his son the money and has his son very involved in that. And that's a very healthy relationship. You need to be sure that your estate plan is sound, that your money's going to go where you want it to go, that you've answered those questions, that you've got the documents in place to give the instructions properly so your estate goes where you want it to go without going through probate. There's no reason for you to go through probate. It's not going to be helpful to you, and it's going to cost a lot of money and a lot of time and be a lot of frustration for your kids. Had a person from our radio show call just this last week, and he said, Barry, I have inherited some money. My mother has died, but the money is in a trust company and it's tied up right now. And I don't know when I'll get it, but they said it might be a year. And he said, I want to bring it to you, but I'm just not there yet. Well, be sure your kids know about that stuff. And frankly, be sure it's structured so that if it's all supposed to go to the kids upon your death, there's no reason that it should take a year. Frankly, the kids ought to be able to get their hands on it within the next 10 days or so, probably. In most cases, when we help and advise and consult on those kind of plans, we build them to pay out quickly if that's appropriate for the family. Now, sometimes there's a kid who's a problem or an in-law who became an outlaw or something like that, and we have to limit their access to the money. But that's also an important part of the planning that we help people do.
Barry, let me shoot the question to you this way. Let's say we're going through the credenza and we find these files that we came up with a pretty good retirement plan 10 years ago and our final funeral plans 10 or 15 years ago. Oh my gosh, look at this, or we need to update this. And also updating those papers. And how do we make sure that our money will last that long if we have the plan from 10 or 15 years ago and kind of hit reset on that?
Well, Ralph, you said we're looking at our retirement plan from 10 or 15 years ago. I'm inclined to think most people don't have a retirement plan from 10 or 15 years ago. They just quit, and it's just worked out if they've still got money.
They just got lucky. Yeah.
But how about we plan it from here on out? Because maybe it's working out so much that you're doing without and you're not doing some of the things you want to do, and you're going to die with $3 million in your account at age 98, and your kids are going to get the $3 million and have the time of their life. Shouldn't you be having the time of your life? Or better yet, this is really important to me. How about if you take the kids on some trips, the grandkids too, on some trips, and you pay for it? You write the check. So spend the money building memories instead of saving the money just to hand a check to them when you're dead and gone. I promise you the memories will mean a lot more. So I would encourage you to get that on your mind. As far as funeral plans, those pretty well don't change, particularly if you've already paid for your funeral plan. Had a client in this week, and we talked about that fact. We're just talking about a number of things, and he happened to say, well, we've already got our funeral planned and paid for. He said, we've even got the stone bought. In fact, his wife pitched in. She said, yeah, his mom died just 4 weeks ago. And she said, on the way to her grave, we had to walk by our stone. I said, was that kind of weird? And she said, it really kind of was. But, but boy, are they prepared or what? These, by the way, were fellow Kansans out in your part of the world, Ralph. So that was interesting to me. But I just would encourage you to get your planning done and have your planning reviewed and be sure it's still on pace and that what you want to happen is going to happen.
And generally, would you agree every year, Barry, how often you sit down with your clients and revisit their plans? It should be an annual event.
We revisit their plans as needed or about annually. That's exactly correct. That's, in fact, the sixth step in our 6 steps to retirement confidence. The very sixth step is to go back and look at the other 5 steps. The other 5 steps have to do with income. Do you have enough? Taxes. Are you paying too much? Do you have the right amount of principal protected? Or maybe you've got too much risk in your portfolio. We've had that happen quite a bit lately. People who wanted only about 30 or 40 miles an hour of risk come in with 60 or 70 miles per hour in risk, and that's dangerous for their portfolios. Do you have your long-term care plan laid, and is it in order and going to work well for you? And have you done your estate planning? Those are the 5 steps. And so the 6th step is once a year looking at the 5 steps and saying, did we get this all done correctly, and is it still good, or do we need to adjust something?
What a great show. We've been over Barry's 6 steps to retirement confidence. Go over those with Barry on your own at 417-200-3500. 6 steps to retirement confidence that Barry is famous for, I would say, around the Ozarks. And we've also been through the 3 stages of retirement, Barry. So the go-go and slow-go and no-go years. Barry, we have time for a mailbag question. If you have time for this, I have time to read it to you.
Sure.
If you're ready. All right. We'll see if we get 1 or maybe 2 in. This person writes in, I've had a steady corporate job for 35 years, and my wife has taught piano since we were married in the early 1980s. Her job helped us pay for the groceries and pay the bills and some extra money to put away for the future. She doesn't have a job with a 401k, of course, or insurance benefits. He's asking, how can I make sure she'll be okay if and when something happens to me?
Well, Ralph, this is really a retirement income plan question. And the question that he's asking, he didn't quite say it that way, but is if I disappear tomorrow, and most of us guys are going to disappear before our wives do, how do I make sure my wife is taken care of? You do that through a retirement income plan. And one of the first things I would look at in this case is, he said the wife taught piano lessons. Now, generally that's cash, and you probably didn't send in your Social Security check money to be deposited on that income. So one of the things I want to know about her, does she have 40 quarters of earnings? Because if she doesn't have 10 years, 40 quarters worth of earnings, 40 credits they call it, then she won't qualify for Social Security. So when he dies, we have a real problem. We've got to make sure there's enough money set back to take care of her. And you do that through a retirement income plan. So if you do not have a retirement income plan that shows what your income will be every year between the day you retire and the day you die, and that shows what your spouse's income will be after you die, and that shows what would happen if you went into long-term care and it ate up some of your income, how that would affect you. If you don't have that, then you don't have a retirement income plan. You don't have a retirement plan. You're not ready to be retired.
You don't have it.
We can help you get ready. Call us at the Wealth Care Corporation, and we'll make it happen for you.
Great. Well, Barry and I are getting ready to depart for a week, but we won't be gone for very long. Hope you'll join us again next Sunday morning on the radio right here. This is Ralph Hipp for Barry Watson. That number to text visit today, maybe right now, text visit to 417-200-3500. Give them a call first thing in the morning at that same number, and text the word book and start digging into that 140 pages of that What's on Wealth book, right, Barry?
You betcha. We've got copies we'd love to send you in the mail.
And you'll love reading it. Barry, thank you for a great show, and we'll get to more questions. We do have questions on our TV show and more questions next weekend on the radio show. So, Barry, we appreciate your time, and friends appreciate your time as well, and join us again next time for What's on Wealth, the radio show. Goodbye for now.
Thank you for stopping by What's on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for What's on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.